if we're talking about somebody like Lex Fridman, right? He was mentioned in the beginning of this episode. So our good friend Ben Avery, who I know you know.
Yeah, I know Ben real well.
He was at dinner with Lex Fridman and Joe Rogan and Tim Dillon, and he got to be a witness to Lex Fridman spouting love for Vladimir Putin and all
Ben
this
told me
Russian
that a long time ago.
propaganda. Yeah.
Ben told me that.
So, but the reason why I'm saying this is because, when you have people, for example, like Mike David of Redbar, warning Joe, telling Joe that, Joe, you got to be careful of the people that are around you, the guy who sells you your bow and arrow kits, the guy who makes your coffee, they're all in on it, Joe.
We've got this theory here about Joe Rogan that he might be the most manipulated man in history. Think about it. Think how easy it is to get to Joe Rogan. Think how easy it is to put ideas in his head. He might be being used and manipulated 24 hours a day. Every conversation he has could be a guy trying to get him to do something, trying to get him to do something for him, trying to get him to think a certain way. There could be 50 different organizations actively using all their methods to try to influence Joe, to try to make Joe Rogan believe certain things. There could be Russia could be doing it. Russia could have a project for the last 4 years where they're like, get our ideas into Joe Rogan's head.
I'm sure Rogan has no clue, and he needs somebody from the not as big of a podcast world to let him know. Do you think Joe's not aware? Do you think Mike Baker's not going to have to go in after I was just on and clean up the mess I made? Like there's always someone after I go on? You think that's not how it works? He's aware
I'm sure
of it.
Mike Baker's in there as well.
Listen, where I live, this area is lousy with not only intel spooks, but people that are billionaire backed. Cutouts. It's lousy. They're real obvious. In fact, the only reason you wouldn't be able to pick them out is because you wouldn't even have thought to look for it. But now that I know to look for it, and now that for some reason Austin is the seat of Western power in the minds of the MK retard classes of America. Austin. I'm in Austin. So because of that, there's all these people that are coming in and they want to get close. And people, you think they put a bug in the studio? They don't got to bug the studio. They can listen on your fucking refrigerator, dude. They don't got to do none of that shit. Of course, there's a bunch of these people around. You can see through them because when they start telling me stupid propaganda that I knew was bullshit 3 years ago, and I'm not going to take the time to explain, go watch a Jimmy Dore show if you want no explanation. That's 3 years worth of shit you should watch. But I already know the truth. So any performative debate, I don't give a fuck. I don't care if anybody believes what I'm saying. Go watch the show. I know what's right. You could convince me with evidence that I'm wrong, and I'll thank you for it. I will thank you for it if you do. I think we should never talk to an Eastern European again about what we should do over there because they've steered us wrong every single time for the last 80 years. Every one of these fuckers has drained our accounts. They've apparently set up a breakaway civilization with the money they fucking stole from us. I don't know if you're aware of that. Jason
those are the Nazis, not the Ukrainian Eastern European. Not Ashkenazis. I don't think they have a lot of respect for the Ashkenazis. They would use here's how Jason would say it. Here's how Jason would say it. He would say that Kissinger would have been more like the court Jew for the Nazis. That would be probably the accurate interpretation of that.
Sure, but he outlasted the rest of them. And Hitler was a moonchild. He was an empty vessel. That's why they want to clone him and those stupid, the boys from Brazil. You ever seen that?
Is that why Carl Jung was talking about Hitler being possessed by the spirit of Wotan? See, I know
how much smarter you are than so fucking.
No. Here's the thing: we have different specialties, and again, I'm going to keep bringing up the association thing because, like a book that Curtis recommended back in the day, Red Decade by Eugene Lyons, he was talking about how back in the 1930s and 40s. You had all of these KGB guys, or whatever it was called back in the day, that were influencing American intelligentsia. Right now, I think a lot of the people like at the Golden Globes and all this bullshit, that's the past. That's over with.
Okay,
hold on. I gotta say it. Man.
You're wrong.
It doesn't matter. You gotta let me finish. The real intelligentsia today is Joe Rogan and that particular sphere, which you're also a part of. That's the real intelligentsia. That's
You don't have to call him gay. You have to call Rogan gay, dude. He's my friend. And if he was gay, he'd tell you.
There are other people that have covered that particular thing. But no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that Joe Rogan was spouting specific reports from Russian TV. And again, this is my hold on, this is my area of expertise. So I have to speak about it. Russian TV is complete propaganda. Everything they put out there is made intentionally, not even for the Russian people. It's made for Vladimir Putin. It becomes like this feedback loop. He watches certain things that he wants to hear. And then, hold on. And then we have this scenario where Joe Rogan, so he's talking with Lex, and next thing you know, Joe's talking about some obscure talking point from Russian TV.
Which is what?
That without...
Which is what?
I don't remember the fucking talking point.
But that's the important part, is with the Paul.
No, it's not. The important part is relationships. It's the fact that you have people who are able to get in very close and chummy with people like Rogan who are responsible for influencing a lot of people out there. And I think that this is a handicap from a lot of people in your sphere, that you just don't know that much about Russia. And that's okay. I don't know a lot about certain things you bring up.
Look. I don't know. Maybe none of your viewers seen before. I got to tell you, anybody, I don't care how any of you feel about shit. I don't want to hear the same old horse shit. If you live in New York and you're snooty and you believe in the Atlanticist point of view, that Edward Teller fucking psychopath, Dr. Strangelove fucking bullshit, fuck you. Suck my dick if you don't like what I said. I don't care. Go watch the Sitch and Adam episode where they try to fucking tell me some fucking bullshit because they got friends that work at Rand and shit like that. I'm well acquainted. Dude, I've done this before. Now, the thing you said, however, about Putin and the Russian news, yeah, I'm sure. Lev, I said the same thing on the Jimmy Dore show about CNN and MSNBC with Jake Tapper. Because remember when Biden, they had the auto pen thing? I go, they just plop him down in front of MSNBC, and it's for Joe Biden. The propaganda is not for all the peasants. It's for Joe Biden to hear. Well, Joe Biden is better. Like when Morning Joe goes, if you can't take it, F you. This is the best Joe Biden. The best. Like, that's because Joe Biden is being babysat by MSNBC. So I get that concept very well. Here's the thing about the Russians or this. The Russians ain't my fucking enemy. Here's my enemy. And by the way, read Tragedy and Hope. I tried to tell this to Curtis Yarvin. I tried to tell this to everybody.
I did read The Anglo-American Establishment.
Okay, so you know that it's not the Leninists and it's not the fucking Marxists. It's the Fabian Socialists. Fabian Socialists. That's who is behind all this shit. And that's why commies from the Frankfurt School were put in America after World War II. So that stupid that guy that claims to be a Soviet spy and he wasn't, Jack Barsky's right about him. He's a fucking fake. And he talks about how the Soviet Union would undermine your morale from inside. Yeah, well, they're not around. We're around. And They are around.
The
Soviet Union.
Yes, absolutely. I'll tell you why. Because Gorbachev, he got rid of the Communist Party. He did not get rid of the KGB. So the descendants of the KGB, including Angela Merkel, by the way, who opened Germany wide up to the migrants and is a good friend of Vladimir Putin.
I heard a way
Did you know that? Did you know that Merkel's a good friend of Putin?
You know she's one of Hitler's kids?
I heard about that theory. I don't know if it's true, but maybe.
But again, I can't verify it. But I was wondering.
No, I know.
I heard about it recently. It's very intriguing.
Yeah. No, but again, the important thing here that I'm pointing out is that while we can go down a lot of very interesting rabbit holes about all the problems in the United States, like the auto pen stuff,
let's fix them.
All of this.
Let's fix them and not worry about Russia. How about that?
No, I disagree because here's why.
Because you're from there and I'm not?
No, it has nothing to do with... Here's the thing. Because I'm from there...
You have a very Israeli view of where my money should go, I must say.
Because I'm from there, there's certain things that I know that Americans don't know.
Like
and I want to use that...
Like what?
Like the fact that Russian intel has been all over American podcasting networks and all kinds of ways to influence.
Wait. What's the?
Yes,
here's
Russian
my question.
intel.
Look. Again, this is why the relationships are not as. I'm going to sum it up very easily.
Okay.
I got to do Jimmy show. I got to go. I'm going to a Jimmy Dore show starting. I'm sorry. I don't care about the relationships, and I would recommend everybody that you not go about looking into things that way. You just give me the data. I don't care how you want me to feel about it. I don't care who you are.
All right, let me at least give you this girl.
Just give me the data that they said. So let's say Russia infiltrates and then they tell me the truth. That's fine. If they lie to me and it harms me in some way, I'm
Yes.
mad. But our friends, first of all, Obama signed the Smith Modernization Act. You know what that did? It made it
What?
legal.
Oh yeah, the propaganda. I heard about that. Okay.
So the
No,
number
but
one call is
you have to
coming
go
from
soon.
inside the house, not from Russia.
Because you have to go soon. Let me at least tell you about Maria Zhirkova, okay? She's a pro-Kremlin youth movement member who was influencing a lot of people in Silicon Valley.
To do what?
And she was working together with Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, so it's Mossad. Okay. Well, that's great. Chabad is in Russia too. Chabad is in Russia as well. They are the political, listen, a religion and politics. The reason you don't bring your religion into politics is because it means your religion's fucking fake. So I want everyone a lot of people won't like that I'm saying this, but I don't give a shit. If you're a Christian, but you think that God cares about your country and wants you to go shoot for your country, you're not a Christian. You fucking moron. You're maybe a Mithraist, or maybe you're a polytheist. Maybe you're
Mithraism's cool. I like Mithraism.
Yeah, well, until you get to
you know why? Because Mithra is the god of agreements, and I don't really think we've had a lot of that kind of good faith agreement going on in the world.
He's the god of old Templar homos jerking off on a rock because they want to have a baby without a vagina involved. That's what he's the god of. Sorry to spoiler alert. That's what Mithra is.
Where can we read about that particular jacking off section?
Yo, Giorgiani on my show called. Because Giorgiani knows. See, I'm never getting a shouting match with Jason Giorgiani. That guy is smart. And he has looked into the shit. And when I brought up that the Trilateral Commission installed the Ayatollah, oh no, do we not like the Ayatollah? Well, whose fault is it that he's there, I wonder? Oh, that's right. The fault of the people complaining. The fault of America and England and
Israel. You weren't talking about Mithras, though. You're talking about the Templars, the Knights Templar. They're the ones who are doing a lot of those. Yes.
Father Mitra. Baphomet means Father Mitra or Father Meat. My personal theory, and I wrote this to Jason, I haven't checked if he got back to me, is that Mithra and his mother, because Cybele is meat, I'll bet you, and it's probably based on a real woman that had her son castrated, who she was abusing incestuously, some queen from whatever, is probably what it is. I don't know. But I have a suspicion that God is actually the son, Mithra, and he's doing a Norman Bates and wearing mommy's identity and face like a creepy Chainsaw Massacre thing. And that's what that God is, Baphomet. And that's why, if you take the Aleister Crowley picture that he drew of Lamb, someone just tweeted.
Yeah, Lamb with the big head.
Jason is the first guy. Giorgiani, the first guy. Bring him next time. Jason Giorgiani, the first guy, told me that it forms an owl if you look at it a certain way. But somebody told me you're supposed to turn it upside down. And if you turn it upside down, it looks like a big head coming out of a guy's ass and the balls. That's what it looks like. And that, my friend, is Mithraism.
Yeah, Lev Polyakov, thank you for the 20, says, Kurt Metzger mentioned on my show a theory linking Cybele to Metis and tying that into Mithras having a mother dynamic, even Norman Bates style idea of wearing the mother's identity. Any source for this? I don't think there's a source for this. That Cybele in late Roman antiquity, not the Phrygian Cybele, is connected to Mithras because you find her in the Mithraeums. Like she has her own like rooms, and there's like certain Mithraeums that I can think of right now. The one that was built by Caesar Antoninus in the 150s or 140s, built a Mithraeum in Ostia, which is the port city where Rome is. And there's a room that was dedicated that where the Cybele and another god was on the wall. So there was linkage, and the reason why I'm saying that instead of the goddess Anahita, who it would have been in the Persian Mithras, it would have been they switched it over to Cybele. So there's a link there between Cybele and Anahita, which Anahita is the Persian version of Athena. She's the virgin warrior goddess. She even looks like Athena. She's has a shield and a helmet and all that stuff. So yes, I can see, I don't know where he got that from, but there's something behind it, and it sounds like a pretty intelligent connection. However, Metis is the wife of Zeus, if I'm recalling correctly, who she helps him like defeat Saturn, or Kronos in Greek. And then there's a prophecy about a greater son being born that would like overthrow Zeus. So he's like, I can't have that. So he swallows Metis. She turns into a fly. He swallows her. And then he gets this huge headache that he can't get rid of. So Prometheus comes in with an axe. And in some versions, it's Hephaestus. And he's like, I'll get rid of your headache for you, Zeus. crack, slices him in the head, and Athena comes out of his head and is born. That's how Athena's born. So
isn't that interesting? Mithras is born from a rock. You get these
born from a rock. Mithras born from There's something.
stuff.
Yeah, it's an interesting connection, but it's more of a syncretic connection that we do rather than finding that in the sources. So
thank you, Lev. You're the man.
We haven't even scratched the surface, I think, of the kind of things that we need to talk about. Last point that I'm going to say, though, not for you specifically, but just the general circle of people who agree with a lot of the points that you're talking about. I don't think they're even curious about or interested in anything that's being talked about on the other side. Because here's the thing. Imagine if one day, not you, but somebody else were to come up with, some explanation as to why actually we should support Ukraine. They'd lose all their followers. They'd lose all their friends.
Buddy, it still says on my live stream, if I minimize Ukraine, they'll steal my money. Google will steal my money. So, no, I'm not the mainstream position. I'm the fringe. So you're acting as if throwing our money down that toilet hole is the fringe. No,
fringe is very popular. It's extremely popular. You know why?
And why? Because it's your fault. Because it's your fault.
If you
fucked up, the leaders fucked up, then the fringe becomes popular, and that's your fault. And that's what you'd say about Iran, and you are saying. Well, if the people are mad, it's your fault.
Isn't it true that if you say the sky is blue, nobody wants to pay attention? If you say the sky is purple, then all of a sudden everybody becomes interested.
I don't care. I always tell the truth.
But that's how reality works, right? People are always after the juicy part.
Okay, I'm not trying to do some occult magic Bernays manipulation bullshit. I fucking hate that shit. I told you there ain't no left and right. I'm an exoteric. I almost said terrorist. Exoteric. I'm exoteric. No more secrets. No more secrets, motherfuckers. You don't get to keep another fucking secret ever again. That's my policy towards the U.S. and towards the West and towards NATO. You don't get to have no more secrets, you fucks. And if it destroys the country because I know the bad things you did, good. Did you get it? The truth is all that matters, not your dumb fucking country, not your fucking friend. That's why what you're saying, I understand in the upper echelons. Yeah, no, you just guilt someone by association because what matters is relationships. And that could be just Putin propaganda. If I tell you the truth and it helps Putin, I don't give a fuck. Do you get that? I don't care.
I'm
not playing soccer. I'm not a European. I don't care about soccer.
It seems like the ultimate loosh harvesting.
What?
If you catch my drift.
That's what a troll is. I don't troll.
You don't think people's loosh? You don't think people's loosh is being activated by somebody?
Lev, it's been a great time talking to you. Tell your friend I'm sorry, and he looks great in a Frisian cap like a little elf.
All right,
I'm sorry for the conspiracies and Zion and Zionism. And
Kurt, I'm just saying. I think you're a fantastic loosh activator. And I think that people who are after this mindset of knowing that they have the secret knowledge, it's the most popular thing in the world now.
I didn't say I have nothing. I just said if I think I know something is true, and if you could correct me, your friend is incapable of correcting me because he doesn't have the truth. So
no, because you were always saying that you know already what the truth is.
I will not tolerate midwit shit. Yeah. Yo, if you think I haven't had this conversation, go look up Sitch and Adam with me. I've already been through this stupid shit. And so your friend bringing that up is like some old globalist fuckhead shit to try to sell that to me. Yo, I'm not even that bright, and we're all beyond the thing that your well-to-do friends think is important. The ship turns slow, and it's because the people at the top are fucking numb and stupid, and they do not understand how bad they have cocked up. But the Epstein files are out. Your buddy didn't read them. That's why he tried to downplay them. But go read them. That Satanist Pizzagate shit is real. So fuck all of the people you know that work in government and work at a think tank. Fuck them. It's over, assholes. It's over. I'm sorry. You failed. The fruits of your works have been despicable. We didn't get anything out of what NATO promised. We got nothing. We got our kids trafficked. Well, I don't have kids, but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, shit, I'm late. All right. See, I get caught up, dude. But you rule, Lev. I love you, man.
Right.
I don't know.
Thank you so much for coming in.
I can't tolerate midwit talk. That's all. He'll understand.
what I tried to achieve with this particular stream with Kurt Metzger was bring in somebody to him from the think tank universe, not to have like some kind of a dogpiling effect on the guy, but to be able to have Kurt bring up all the extreme out there fringe things that he likes to talk about and be able to properly dissect it, which is why I think having somebody from more of an establishment area who, by the way, is very much willing to dissect these kind of things. Like, he's not going to say like, oh my God, this is so offensive what you just said right now, about this group or that group. What I didn't want, though, and what ended up happening, unfortunately, was that Kurt ended up just becoming, as somebody called it, medieval. He just started to not only interrupt in such a way that my friend only got maybe like 8 opportunities to say something in 40 minutes. But also, Kurt was laying out pure venomous vengeance towards my friend. And what I'm trying to do with BTR is try to be able to talk about anything we want, just talk about the ideas, and they could be extreme ideas too. Again, as long as it's not something that YouTube is going to shut down the stream for, then by all means, like, I don't have a problem, and the people that I bring on don't have a problem with that kind of conversation. But the line, at least for me, like, I draw it when it comes to personal insults. So I don't know, like, did Ye, or Dirac Ghost, as you call yourself, you had a chance to watch the whole thing. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it was a difficult conversation. I mean, the thing is that I love Kurt as a stand-up comedian. I think he's one of the best out there. He's so
very funny.
He's so funny. He's incredible. And I don't know. I think Kurt came out with lots of a priori's. He had these like rants about people from New York, which were funny, but and he had I think a sort of model, I think, that was a bit stereotypical, and because of that, I don't think that he gave him the chance to basically engage in the conversation, like an interesting conversation between somebody who's more institutionalized and somebody who is not at all. And I think that these kinds of conversations is super important to be had, and sadly it didn't happen. Sadly, it didn't happen because of those kinds of a priori's, because I think for some reason Kirk thought he was going to get trapped, or he was going to be made into agreeing with things that he thinks are just, fraudulent claims about reality and so on and so forth. Also, I think one of his a priori's that he thought that, people were, in a conversation with like normies who have these kinds of normative views of reality.
Yeah, but Kurt knows that I'm not a normie, first off. If we're talking about the kind of things that I was talking with him back when we met in New York City, I was mentioning people like Isaac Cappy, for instance. That whole story about how Isaac was looking at all these celebrities and all of these horrible things that they were up to. And later on, he, offed himself by throwing himself off this bridge in Arizona, I believe. And then, what's his name? The actor from Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks tweeted something about Route 66, and something that allegedly related to what Isaac Cappy had going on at that time. So when I look at that as a just outside observer, it doesn't look great. It doesn't prove 100% that that's necessarily what happened. But I can understand, like, in that world of theater or film, there could be all kinds of horrible things that are going on in the background. And what I thought was that Kurt knew that I'm about that, and I still think he does. But that's kind of like the whole idea. If nobody is insulting anybody else, then there's actually some room for dialogue, where if he's bringing something up, how do I know that this is real? Okay, what do you have to do? What are the steps? And the problem is that during that conversation, it almost seemed like one of those Redditor type educate yourself remarks towards that, where it's like, okay, well then what are we even doing? What's the point?
Yeah, in my mind, a question about epistemology, like how do you know how you know? And I think right away for Kurt, that's bullshit. Right away if you're trying to, like, I don't know. It's I think that's guys in I don't know, like arts. Me being having work with musician a lot. People in arts and in self-made artists, they don't like jargon. They like natural conversation, natural interaction. And as soon as you're trying to be technical, like how do you know what you know, that sounds like bullshit to them. It sounds like you're trying to fuck with their minds and what I mean.
I don't remember who it was. Hold on, somebody in Patreon wrote a very interesting thing. Kurt is an expert on neuro-linguistic programming and mind control. Yeah, I mean, he was born and raised in a family of Jehovah's Witnesses, so he kind of got a head start there. I don't think it's his responsibility to warn an interlocutor not to say something like Israel can defend itself or it's not a genocide. However, maybe a lesson for all of us to try to facilitate these conversations. There is an interesting thing that is going on with, let's say, the world of Kurt Metzger, and as well as the world of Dave Smith and people, or Alex Jones, like people within that whole sphere, is that the kind of things they're criticizing right now is completely safe. And I think that a lot of people within that circle are aware of that they're not going to get assassinated by Mossad. They're not going to, especially now with X being wide open, look at the Will Stansel show, at the end of it, she sends poor David Karp, to Auschwitz, like there's absolutely no censorship going on right now when it comes to, the ability for people to express how much they hate the Jews. That's wide open for people to do if they want to. But what is still very dangerous, what I don't think we would see from people within that circle doing, is burning the Quran, right? In order to burn the Quran, you got to write your will. You know what I mean? Like, you got to make plans, okay? You got to kiss your family goodbye just in case, okay? You got to be ready for shit to go down. So
or you dress yourself. If you actually dress yourself with pages of the Quran, they can't touch you, because if they fuck up one of the part of the Quran, they're doomed. So it's a
very smart idea for a jihad-proof vest.
Around your neck.
And again, to be fair to the side of people like Kurt, I think that people within the side of all of these think tanks and all these professional organizations, they never wanted to talk about Epstein. They never wanted to talk about what's going on right now with this Russia stuff too. I want to do a shout out, by the way, to Ben Avery. Ben Avery was on that show with Kurt, and Ben Avery is a friend, and I really appreciate Ben Avery, like being like an honest guy, going with what he believes is right. And the guy's got a family now. He's got 2 wonderful kids and a wife, and we're all in the circle right now, guys. And I think that we all have to help lift each other up and get us to focus on, finding a balance between entertainment, because let's face it, people want to be entertained, right? And people want to uncover all the secret stuff. And there is secret stuff. That's the best part. You're not going to run out of secret stuff. There's a lot of it everywhere. But at the same time, show the receipts as much as you can and try to make these connections with people who may be skeptical at first, but at least they're interested in hearing you out. Because that's a very rare thing. And if you're not going to engage with people who are willing to hear you out from the other side, if you're completely shutting that off, then you are perpetuating an environment that's actually a lot safer. Because it's way more dangerous, if you guys think about it, to bring people in who are actually trusted by people within the establishment, who are actually people who are not considered to be on the fringe. Once those people, and I think it's slowly happening right now with the Epstein files, once those people start to consider certain things that a lot of people have correctly been saying within Kurt Metzger's circles, that's maybe when the real change is going to happen.